house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite, sharing love in the metazone, light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise, together we inspire.
Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Planet B podcast. Today, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the climate bathtub model. Dr. Rao, we're back again.
Yes. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, this model is something that we introduced during COP26 in Glasgow. So in Glasgow, we had several press conferences, and during one of the press conferences, we introduced the climate bathtub model. It's a realistic model for understanding how to solve climate change, right?
And that kind of ties into your quote that you started with. All models are wrong, but some are useful.
Correct, yeah. Because a model is trying to model reality. And in reality, everything is unique.
Mhm.
Every leaf is unique, every grain of sand is unique, and every molecule is unique, right? But a model just lumps things together.
Right.
Yeah. But some models are useful, meaning they explain phenomena and they explain how to solve problems. And so in systems engineering, we use models to figure out how to solve problems. You start with a simple model, and then you can add nuances to it.
Right. Which is
So
what you've done over your time of doing this research. You can see how it's evolved.
no, not only that, the climate bathtub model, right now there are only two faucets in the model, right? There's one faucet pouring water into the bathtub from the fossil fuel engine, and then
Mhm.
one faucet pouring water into the bathtub from the animal agriculture sector, right? Now, when you want to create nuances, you can separate the faucets as a CO2 faucet, a methane faucet, and
Right.
nitrous oxide faucet, and so on. And you can then see which one can you turn off. When you add these nuances, it makes it possible for us to understand the solution space in more detail.
Right.
That's what I'm pointing out. So, but the initial model itself, I want people to first accept that.
Mm.
Accept that is telling us to address animal agriculture first.
So for someone who's never seen the climate bathtub model, could you give us just a high level overview of what you're showing in this picture?
Yeah, basically imagine that all life on Earth is in the form of a baby and is stuck in a bathtub that's filling up with water. That water represents the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. So the water is filling up through two faucets. One is from our burning machine, which is the fossil fuel engine, and one is from the killing machine, which is the animal agriculture engine. And they are the two main sources of greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Assume half of it is coming from the burning machine, half of it is coming from the killing machine. And this is based on paper that we talked about in the last chapter. Okay, so it's half and half. And then there is a drain to the bathtub, which is clogged up. Okay? And that drain drains into a vegan reforestation tank, we call it. So that tank has a certain capacity. So it can hold, some amount of water. So that represents the amount of carbon that can be sequestered, or CO2 that can be sequestered in regenerating forests. Right?
Mm.
So there is a correspondence between every aspect of the model and reality. Okay? And then there is an overhead tank in the bathtub. And that overhead tank is controlled by the burning machine faucet. So if we turn off the burning machine faucet, it opens the overhead tank and lets some amount of water fall into the bathtub. Now that represents the cooling gases that we emit when we burn fossil fuels. And those cooling gases are very short-lived gases. So the cooling gases like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, ammonia, and so on. And they come from burning fossil fuels. And they only stay in the atmosphere until the next rain brings it down. So they come down in the next rain.
Oh, wow.
I think, you get a rain within 2 to 3 weeks, it'll come down, right? So wherever the rain happens, it comes down there. If those cooling gases disappear, you're going to experience the full heating of all the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And right now, we are not experiencing the full heating of the greenhouse gases. The cooling gases are masking 1/3 to half the heating. That's how powerful the
One
cooling
third
gases.
to half.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah. That's how powerful the cooling gases are. Because what the cooling gases do is that they interact with water vapor in the atmosphere and they create reflective surfaces. Okay, so they're reflecting sunlight back.
Mm.
So this is known as albedo, reflectivity of the earth. So they're impacting the reflectivity of the earth, the cooling gases. And when you remove the cooling gases, you don't have those molecules for water vapor to condense on and form sulfuric acid or whatever that has these white fumes. And instead, you're going to have the sunlight streaming right down and heating up the planet. So that's there in the model, the climate bathtub model. So now I say you're a plumber. You're not a scientist. You're a plumber. Okay? You have to turn off these faucets and you have to drain the bathtub. How would you do that? So you can actually ask a plumber to solve the problem. And the plumber will immediately tell you, shut down that killing machine faucet and unclog the drain of the bathtub. So that
Very simple.
Yeah. And then slowly dial down the burning machine faucet so that as the water from the overhead tank falls into the bathtub, the level of water in the bathtub does not go above the limit. Because if you turn it off right away, all the water in the overhead tank will fall into the bathtub and it will drown the baby.
Through doing these podcasts, I've come to understand how the fossil fuels have this cooling effect, but when you put it in this way, this context, it's very clear how fast we would lose that cooling effect simply by turning off the burning machine.
Right. Yeah, you will lose all the cooling effects right away.
We're talking just like the first rain. Like, so if the first rain would eliminate that cooling effect, so I mean, that could literally be in one day or just as little as, like you mentioned, 2 weeks.
Right, 2 to 3 weeks. The estimate is that within 2 to 3 weeks, they will all come down if we don't emit anymore. And we did an inadvertent experiment on that in 2021. Okay, what we did in 2021 was the International Maritime Organization, which also has models for the cooling effects of sulfur dioxide and so on. And they estimated that the cooling above the ocean by burning fuel with sulfur in it was maybe 0.14 watts per square meter. That's all it's going to impact. It's very tiny. Okay, they estimate it will be very tiny. So they decreed that the sulfur content of the fuel that's burnt in ships on the open seas should be reduced to less than 1%, I think. Okay. Previously it was you can burn anything you want,
Right.
And people are burning all kinds of junk in the open seas because it's whatever is cheap, you burn it. And so by putting that restriction, and it made sense, right? Because you don't want a lot of acid rain falling on people. Okay, because that's what sulfur dioxide emissions does. Now, their model was assuming it was linear. X amount of SO2 would cause, say, Y amount of heating, and 2x amount of SO2 will cause 2y amount of heating. They were using a linear model.
All right.
It turned out it's not linear. Okay? It turned out that SO2 molecules over a pristine ocean are way more powerful than SO2 molecules over an already polluted land. The reduction in sulfur over the ocean caused a tremendous change in the reflectivity of the atmosphere above the ocean. So it caused a tremendous change in the cloud cover.
All right.
And this is the reason why 2023 and 2024 and 2025 are the hottest years in history.
Basically, because the ships changed the fuel that they were burning, which
Right.
wasn't emitting so much of those gases,
Right.
it didn't have the same cooling potential. So that actually made the ocean hotter.
It made the ocean hotter, and it made the overall temperature of the Earth shoot up in 2023, 2024. Even though it started in 2021. The reason it took so many years is because the Earth is so big and the ocean has so much inertia. It takes time for the Earth to react to a change in heating. So you change the heating instantly, okay, within 2 to 3 weeks. In 2021, we already changed the heating. But the temperature increase takes 3 years, 3 to 4 years to show 1/3 of that increase. So 1/3 of the increase we experienced in 2023, 2024, and so on, following that. And the next 1/3 will happen in 100 years. And the last 1/3 will happen in thousands of years.
Wow.
That's the kind of slow trajectory of the temperature increase that happens because of the inertia of the ocean. So we experienced the initial increase in temperature within 3 to 4 years. That was in 2023, 2024. And now it's going to go slowly. It's not like it's going to wait 100 years and then increase it by 1/3. It's going to keep going up, but slowly.
All right.
And then it'll keep going up for thousands of years, right? Slowly. But the good news there is, if we stop that, if we start reducing the heating on the planet, you don't have to experience the second 1/3 or the third 1/3. You don't have to experience that. You can bring it down.
Right.
So you can use the inertia of the ocean to our advantage. So we're not yet fully experiencing the true impact of what we have done.
Right.
Right? And that's true for all the heating that we have done. We haven't experienced all the heating that we have done. We only experienced, portions of it. And if we start cooling now, you don't have to experience the remaining. It'll start cooling.
Which goes into unclogging these pipes so the water
Right.
can flow into this vegan reforestation tank. So can you share a little bit more about what exactly this vegan reforestation tank is?
Vegan reforestation tank represents the forest that can come back if the world goes vegan and restores ecosystems on the land that gets freed up from animal agriculture. So we are estimating that you can free up 40% of the ice-free land area of the planet and return it back to nature, right? As well as the entire ocean can be returned back to nature. The ocean will also sequester. Now, I didn't even include that, in my calculations, in the vegan reforestation tank. So things could be better than what I'm saying in the model. Nature has this tremendous capacity to heal if we stop burning down forests and start helping. And the model only uses what I can guarantee is going to happen. It doesn't go beyond that. Yeah.
And then this pipe basically represents all of the meat that people are eating. So by stopping eating the animal meat, we clear that pipe, and then the water can flow right into the reforestation tank.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the when you stop eating animals, you free up the land, and that's the unclogging the pipe.
It's a wonderful visual. I mean, it's great because I've seen this visual before, but listening to you explain it solidifies it so much.
Yeah. Now, some people say, why did you put a baby there? Why don't you maybe put a cat or something? I don't know. some life that represents all life on Earth, right? For instance, some institutions vetoed or banned my talk because I used the baby in the picture. They say it'll offend people to know that they're drowning a baby.
What I feel like you're trying to highlight is a sense of urgency, because we all love our children. So that would be the one thing that we would picture to evoke an emotional response in all of us.
Absolutely. And also it is real for our children,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It, if we just sit around doing nothing, I mean, we are going to drown and we are all going to die, right?
So you must have quite evoked an emotional response in the team that banned you because obviously they must have felt something and that's why they felt that way.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think they were also looking for an excuse to ban it because they didn't want anyone to see this, yeah. Because it's not that complicated to understand, right? The bathtub model. In fact, I presented it to my colleagues who are systems engineers, from Stanford, and one of my colleagues said, "Sailesh, don't don't keep telling us it. We know this. This is not so hard to understand. It's just that people don't want to do it. That's the problem we're facing. People don't want to do it." And I said, well, you have to know the consequences of not doing it, which is you're going to drown the baby. And once you acknowledge the consequences, then ask yourself, do you really want to do it or not?
Dr. Rao, what do you think it'll take for people to change that mindset where they'll finally have to give in to not only seeing the problem but addressing it as we know is through this vegan solution?
It takes puncturing of the ego. Say you are not in charge. You have not been in charge. Humans are not in charge, right? It's the human ego that needs to be punctured. Nature has always been in charge. Bow down to nature. Now, I have done this time and again because as an engineer, I bow down to nature all the time. If nature says your device is not working, it's not working. I can't say we'll pretend it's working. No, it's not working. And then you have to figure out how do you make it work. You have to come into alignment with nature to make it work. Okay, so engineers always say Mother Nature is the boss. We are just trying to figure out how to make it work within nature. And the same is true for the life support systems of the planet. We are not in charge. Nature is in charge. And nature has been using us. That's the story we need to tell. Okay? Nature has been using us, and nature is telling us, you're done with this phase. Let's move on.
Do you think it's the planet A systems that are inflating the ego and masking the true solution?
Absolutely. Planet A systems were built on Francis Bacon's original statement that he wanted to use science to control nature and shake her to her foundations. Well, I'm saying you shake nature to her foundations, you're going to be rattling the teeth in your own skulls. Right? You're part of nature. So what do you mean you're shaking?
Gonna shake us right off the planet.
Right, right. So that's what this model is saying. You know what to do if you want to save the baby. Okay? Nature is showing us there is a way out. And that begins by acquiring humility.
Yeah.
And that is the spiritual and cultural transformation that we are going to be talking about in the next chapter.
I like that. That was a smooth teaser there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Dr. Rao, is there any final words you'd like to share for episode 17, the climate bathtub model?
Yeah, it's a simple model that any school children should be able to solve. And it will tell them what they need to shut down first. So please use this model. And you're welcome to change the baby to anything else, just redraw it. But represent something that everyone would want to save. Maybe a puppy.
Very good.
And please make this common knowledge, because I want everyone to understand that there is a way out and this is the way to do it. And it also shows that on the way out there will be some difficulties. We are going to experience this level of heating for a while as we solve the problem.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Rao. And just to remind everyone, the climate bathtub model image, Dr. Rao's books, the research papers are all found free at climatehealers.org. So we encourage our viewers to go and explore all of this on their own. And the books have all of the citations and evidence for where all the numbers are from. So it's great education for all of us. So thank you so much, Dr. Rao. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you join us once again for chapter 18, where we go into the need for a spiritual and cultural transformation. Have a wonderful day, and Planet B signing out. Thank you.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where moral progress switched into high gear. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
Go ahead, Toby.
I was wondering what it was at the COP. I'm not sure which. Yeah, it was the COP in Scotland, wasn't it? Where you
Glasgow.
presented
COP
the bathtub
26.
model.
Yeah.
26, right?
Mhm.
And can you explain a bit more what happened there? Because I've seen the video a couple of times. There's not many people there, and
Yeah.
describe what happened.
So basically what happens there is you reserve as an NGO, you can reserve a press conference slot. Then you have to create flyers, and then you have to go and try and convince the press to come. But as soon as they see that it's about animal agriculture, they're all trying to run away, so they don't want to know, So we have difficulty getting the press to come and listen. Right? Because I think they all know. They all know it needs to be done. And so anyway, that's what happened. And then we got some people to come, and they were asking questions, so we answered them. And but at least the UN creates a nice video out of the press conference that we can then use for our marketing purposes.
Yeah. It's I've done a slideshow and trying to break it down and present the bathtub model. I've not completed it yet. I've been focusing on other things at the moment, but I was wondering more about the sequestration as well of the CO2 in the soil and in the you say a third of it is in the soil, in the roots, and in the plant matter.
Right.
That's correct, right? I guess we went over this last episode, but
yeah,
when I research about it, it seems to always say there's way more in the soil. I guess that's just
correct.
Right. But that's because of the roots that were there.
Not only roots, but the soil itself has carbon, in a forested environment. So there's above ground vegetation that stores carbon, and then the root systems store the same amount of carbon as above ground, and then the soil stores roughly the same amount as the root and the above ground combined. Okay. Now the soil's biomass, the carbon, came from photosynthesis. Basically, the tree dropped leaves and then that composted and became soil. So it accumulates over time in the soil. Right. So there are ways you can increase the sequestration in the soil by doing aggressive pruning of the trees as they're growing, and then mulching the pruned biomass and storing it and putting it in the ground. So there are techniques to increase the soil carbon that way.
That's one of the arguments that regenerative agricultural folks say. The ruminants are chewing the grass, which then puts more of the sugars through the roots and stored.
Grass has very little carbon. It has to be trees, right? Store carbon.
Right.
Grass, I mean, the grass, the cow comes and eats it. And then the grass is trying to regrow. Then the cow eats it again. So there's only so much you can store, with that. Now, if they allow the forest to come back, okay, that's the right way to do it. If you do regenerative grazing and then you allow the forest to come back, then I say, why did you cut it down in the first place? I mean, you cut down all the old growth forest and now you're trying to bring it back. And so why did they cut it down in the first place? To displace all the wild animals that were there. So to clear that forest from all the wild animals. And then in the pasture maintenance fires, they keep chopping down anything that's growing that the cows did not eat, and they reburn it. And that's how we have been maintaining pastures. Now, regenerative agriculture is saying, okay, we won't burn. We won't do the pasture maintenance. We let it come back to the wild. But as soon as another wild animal comes in, they want to kill it. Right? So then they have this maintenance problem over time, if they bring the forest back. Right? Because wherever there is food, the wild animals will come. They will say, oh, I can live there, because there is food there. But then you don't want the wild animals to come because they're competing with your cows.
Right.
Okay. So as soon as the wild animals come, they call the Bureau of Wildlife Management in the US and tell them to come and shoot the wild animal. Okay. That's what's going on these days. Now, I mean, this is pasture maintenance, right? So the regenerative people are sort of, they're very confused. They don't know whether to go back to the forest or keep it here. Right? The fact of the matter is, according to the models, the 37% of the land that are grazing lands today only store 53 billion tons of carbon. The total is 2,150 billion tons of carbon. Okay.
Right.
So if it is that low, and that's from an IPCC model that I got that number from, where is the storage that these regenerative people are talking about?
Yeah, they say it's through making their own compost, apparently. But
Yeah.
I don't know how that also releases CO2. Maybe it's a level playing field. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, there have been lots of papers have been written on regenerative farming and how regenerative animal farming does not show results as they claim. And it's become like a tautology, people will say, you're not doing it right unless it's storing carbon. So the answer to anyone who's saying, oh my God, it's not working is, you're not doing it right. And if you ask them, so what is the procedure for doing it right? They say it depends on the situation. There is no procedure. So they make you chase your tail going round and round.
I was thinking that we want to use the sun's energy as much as possible. If we're just forgetting about using photosynthesis or energy from outside of the planet, we're basically looking to make these changes using like perpetual motion machinery kind of idea, where it can kind of just, we're supposed to use that as much as we can to be able to sequester the CO2.
Right.
And the best way to do that is through trees and as the main pump. So yeah, use the sun's energy as much as we can. I think it's probably the best thing to do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Naturally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Bram?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of amazed by your model. It's such a simple model, and that nature, it's a miracle, I think, that nature gives a simple solution to us. Well, because we have tried as in our laboratory where I was working also modeling about making it, trying to get this enormous nature with its complexity to put it in numbers and thousands of numbers and have the biggest computer we can get. And we don't find a solution, but he learned something from it for sure. But it has some success. But it is that was already amazing. I think that you could get models which are roughly correct for modeling with these thousands of grid points in all directions. But it's, nature is so beautiful that it gives us this easy solution which you could find. It's that people, scientists don't think it. You can't be so simple. It's so simple. It can't be a solution.
Right.
You have to make it more complex.
Right. No, I understand that uh, it doesn't reflect all the nuances of reality. But you always start with a model, a simple model that works. And then you start adding refinements to that model. I always go the other way, as a systems engineer. I start with something that I know I roughly get, it reflects what is happening in reality, roughly, and it works. And then you add refinements and you see now which one, how do you still make it work, right? So you can break it down into different faucets, one for the methane, one for the nitrous oxide, one for the carbon dioxide, and so on. You can split the faucets, and then you can see that you can probably turn down the nitrous oxide faucet for the burning machine without hurting anything. Things like that you can do, right? And or you can split it into the natural gas faucet and the coal faucet, or you can split it according to the source, and you see which one can be turned off quickly, right? So these nuances can be added to the simple model once people start accepting the simple model, right? And then you make more complex models, and then you can actually do the implementation.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting because at our lab where we did this work with a lot of computers, we had also a visit from the Club of Rome. They came and they wanted to work together. It's a simple model they had, but our director thought it was not simple. You can't do it that simple. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But eventually, the predictions of the Club of Rome were very accurate,
Correct.
in spite of the enormous simplicity of getting all the economics and everything in there, which was very simplistic and
Right.
not acceptable. But still, they worked.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing how this can be.
Yeah.
Nature is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Deepak?
Hey, Dr. Rao. So, this one thing I don't know, someone mentioned to me that algae or algae, as someone would pronounce it, could be a solution for sequestering carbon because trees take a lot of time to grow to that maturity level where they can like fully sequester carbon. So that's one question, and also a secondary question is like I've heard this that in the permafrost as it's melting there are million-year-old bacteria and viruses. So that's supposedly gonna be the next pandemic. So I just want to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to stop it from melting, which means
Yeah.
you have to start cooling as ASAP. right? And sequestering, it wasn't, see, the solution, I'm a systems engineer. I'm looking at all 7 planetary boundary transgressions, not just how fast can I suck down the CO2, right? So it's not about just, rushing to, because that assumes that climate change is the main problem, which is what we have been told. The climate change is the only problem. Don't look at anything else. Okay? And so everyone is focused on that as the only problem to solve. And then they're saying, okay, how do I suck down the CO2 fast? And when you look at all 7 of them, you have to restore the original ecosystems. No, I know it's hard, but you have to do it, right? And that's how you solve all 7 problems, including chemical pollution, including biodiversity loss, and all of that. And so we have to do that anyway. If algae is going to help us, well, let it do that on the side. Okay? Because we are looking for ways to cool the earth as quickly as possible. It's not good to leave it at 1.5 degrees, and then see what happens. They're going around measuring how fast the Thwaites Glacier is melting now, because it could just break off and go into the ocean, and then it'll be like opening the spigot for all the other ice to come out of Antarctica and fall into the ocean.
The albedo effect will take over then.
Yeah. So we have to cool quickly, but we have to do all these other things also. This is why I'm focused on reforestation and vegan rewilding as a solution. Because, throwing up all these other things as possible solutions is to say, you don't have to bother changing your lifestyle or any of that. It's just, there's another way.
Yeah.
There's a techno fix.
Just take a medicine to fix the symptom.
Right. Yeah. It's the metformin for diabetes approach.
Thank you.
Ray?
Hi, Dr. Rao. Love the bathtub model, and I was so excited when it came out. And I thought this is something that can't be ignored.
Right.
Yeah, I feel it has been ignored. And you're talking about when otherwise intelligent people retreat from this. It must mean you're onto something, right? If environmentalists can find any variable or data point in the model that they reject, then they reject the whole model. And I just want to offer you a metaphor there, or a phrase: they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
I can test that one detail there. Therefore, don't listen to Sailesh Rao.
Right.
I reject that one idea. Therefore, Sailesh is debunked on the bathtub model.
Right.
Whereas I don't think there's been sufficient conversation on this. And what productive conversations have you had with the climate community about this model?
I mean, they don't want to see it, okay? Because I'm pointing out to them that the solution that they have been chasing is going to make things worse. Okay. Ignoring animal agriculture and just focusing on fossil fuels is going to make things worse.
What's the most contentious? Is it the tank at the bottom that
No, the tank on the top
provides this? Well, they're ignoring the aerosol tank.
Right.
I mean, that's a very basic thing that doesn't even require a vegan to explain it to them. It just requires. I mean, I think the 9 planetary boundaries illustrated quite well that there's a whole bunch of different interrelated problems. Hey, how about that aerosol category? Yeah. And then they will talk about the pollution that's created by things, because there's a lot of pollution involved in burning fossil fuels. But that pollution is also the reason why it's not the best solution. It's not where you start. It's where they start because there's a market that will drive it. Right. Yeah. They start there because that's where the light is, you can only look under the light in the system. But that's a category where they don't want to look at it at all. are there any that they say that you're wrong, that this is the wrong thing on this diagram, this figure or this calculation is wrong? Because if we explain it to somebody, it would help to know what they're thinking when they get to a particular data point, because they may not say anything, but we know what might be the contentious issues that.
Oh, I have no idea where they see problems because they don't ever respond to me when I present this. Yeah.
And it's very valuable for us to be able to understand it. So if it wasn't at all clear, then it's something that we have it recorded now and people can go back and watch it again. And if anyone goes and finds the recording, maybe I'll put it in the chat of where you originally presented it at the COP Summit. Mm-hmm. And there's a Q&A afterwards, and it was very interesting. The presentation is great, but the not terribly well attended session, because of course they still stayed away in droves because it's an inconvenient truth. Mm-hmm. But how people approach this topic is very interesting, especially people who are devoted to saving our future generations from climate change, and are frustrated with the lack of progress that they're feeling from these top-down solutions. As there any bottom-up solutions that they're willing to be interested in, we have some for them. As soon as they are willing to listen and truly want to solve the problems.
Well, I have some good news for you, which is that I got a call from a colleague of mine in Sedona, and he said that he's been talking to Project Drawdown, and so he thinks that Jonathan Foley is going to call me to talk about food systems.
Excellent. And we know a vegan in common that's working with Drawdown now. Not a contractor, but it's good that veganism isn't a dirty word there. It's always been kind of hovering. They talk about the plant-rich diet.
Yeah.
And the mechanics of it is reducing our meat consumption by half. We can imply any measure of this plant-rich diet, double it, and that's the vegan solution. Right. And then it makes it by far the best of their 100 different solutions that they examine.
Right. I mean, we are saying that it's not just making it plant-rich, it's going all the way. It's because you have to address the foundational issues.
And they do that with the other solutions. Like they're not going to say, let's try to reduce the number of the amount of fossil fuels. They want to eliminate. You measure what you eliminate. Right. If we eliminate fossil fuels, we'll have this accomplished from a carbon standpoint. You measure that. You don't shy away. You don't go, well, I don't know, everybody's not. What about backyard barbecues? People use charcoal. Let's find excuses of why we have to change the rhetoric and change what we measure. Measure it. Throw the stones, measure it.
Right. So we have to keep at it. Right? I'm not going to give up. Right? So I'll keep at it. I keep telling them it's not that hard to understand. And this is what the data is telling us.
We'll help you where we can.
Yeah, thank you. Brittany?
On the cooling effects with aerosols, and it was showing about the deserts where the sandstorms lead to cooling effects, and that's why I kind of worry about the greening of deserts idea I brought up is last night, is because I heard that the Sahara Desert, because it's a desert, it nourishes the Amazon to allow for such a forest to exist. So there's a conflict between greening a desert and allowing a desert to be there to cool the planet and provide rich forests in the first place. So it's like, which way do we go? I'm kind of thinking maybe there's a way to do both, where kind of look at the which direction the sandstorms go, and then not put anything green there so that the or whatever gets nourished by it can grow, and then you green other areas. But I don't know, it doesn't seem right because the smaller the desert will be, the smaller anything that benefits from it would be. So why would you plant trees if you could just allow the trees to grow from a desert? So what are your thoughts?
No, my thoughts, look, there's a paper that let me see if I can find it. I'll post it in the chat. It's a paper that talks about the North African monsoon. And why did the North African monsoon disappear? Okay, so the Sahara used to be forests about 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. And then the North African monsoon disappeared. It just died out. And they thought it's the monsoon that killed the forest. The lack of monsoon killed the forest. But the paper is arguing it's the other way around. As you deforest, you weaken the monsoon, and eventually the monsoon dies. And I see this now happening in India, where we have been deforesting in India, and you see the monsoons are becoming more erratic over time. Right? So I am asking that we restore the ecosystems to a stable state that used to be there, that lasted for thousands of years. Right? If that means restoring it to what was there 300 years ago or 4,000 years ago, that's the decision we have to make as to which one you want to restore it to. But the closer you get to something that was stable before, from a systems perspective, the better off we are. Okay. Now, within that, there are nuances, like you point out. Maybe you can choose where to reforest if you need to reforest. First of all, I'm right now only talking about regenerating forests, regenerating ecosystems on the land that gets freed up from animal agriculture. And I know that the Sahara is not where animal agriculture is prevalent at the moment. It's on the edges of the Sahara. That's where you need to reforest first.
Yeah, I think when I have listened to people who do live on the edges of the Sahara, what I notice is the issue isn't like the greening part, it's the fact that they do groundwater drilling instead of using rainwater, so it disrupts the water cycle that leads to way more droughts in the edges of the Sahara, which I would imagine, along with animal agriculture, leading to that deforestation. So maybe if people are working with nature or methods that, keep the ecosystem going, then maybe, as you're saying, that would be a priority to whatever benefits might come from the destruction, like the feeding the Amazon, because we can always address the Amazon as well, where that's also due to animal agriculture. It's not just Africa.
Right.
Well, it's not just Amazon that's doing the animal agriculture. It's also the Sahara that's getting depleted due to animal agriculture as well. So if we just stop both, the forest will recover without having to try to keep deserts going in order to get the nutrients to the forest where it's needed. So yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Thanks. Ram?
Yes, I came up with the problem of which we are facing, that we have to become vegan very quickly. If that is not so, there may be another solution, in a sense, an engineering solution. If we, because the area where most changes is now in Antarctic and in the Arctic. So if we could there, let's say, put some more sulfide over the area of the Arctic and the Antarctic, then that might give us a little more time to become vegan for the whole world. What do you think about that possibility?
Yeah, I'm concerned that when we start doing those kinds of experiments, they will say, "Why don't you just continue doing it? Because it gives us more time to go vegan." Right? It's that, start taking metformin and then you say, "I don't need to deal with this diabetes because metformin is helping me overcome my diabetes." And you continue until your organs fail, and then and then you decide, "Oh, maybe we should do a lifestyle change to address diabetes." And then it's too late because your organs are not going to come back, right? So we don't want to do that with the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a weighing off what is. Uh, Hopefully, we can see that it goes fast.
Right. Right. And I think if we tell the story right, it will happen. People are going to be
Yeah,
inspired to join to do this transformation, because why do we want to continue colonialism?
uh,
I mean, the current system is just basically a colonialist system,
yeah.
and it is causing suffering for everybody.
So we don't need to decrease the suffering in a sense. We have to suffer more.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
right. Right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hi, Sailesh, and
Hi,
hello,
Tammy.
everyone. My beautiful community. Paul and I have just been watching a moose out the window eating. They get very hungry when the winter is this harsh, trying to find a few little tops of the branches to nibble on, the little sprouts. So a couple things that come to mind as Paul and I are really excited about International Catholic Cow Mother's Day, by the way. We're starting
Good.
to reach out. I had an interview with Freya Denshaw, who founded the American Vegan Society, and her and Anne are going to do an event in Philadelphia this
Awesome.
year for Mother's Day weekend. And so bringing that into this model, a couple things. When we talk about changing systems and colonization, it really has started on our plate and in the school. And so if we bring this to the oppression and the colonization in the dairy industry and what's happening to our babies of all species,
Right.
and we start allowing children to be able to exposing and critically thinking, then that is where the game change is going to be. It's not changing one person at a time on the street. It's actually changing the entire education system. So using the baby as an example, because we know those first 7 years are so influential. We're in a hypnotic theta state for the first 7 years, so we're literally being hypnotized. So starting as a baby, learning a whole new way. And that starts with not giving children dairy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
can you
dairy
talk
is key. Yeah. Dairy is key, and actually the Trump administration is confirming our analysis. Just look at what they did in the last few days, right? So first it was, threatening to go grab Greenland, okay, to protect the sea routes, the trade routes that are going to open up once the Arctic ice melts. So they're all planning for what happens as we continue progressing in this system. Okay? Who's going to still own, who's going to still be the most powerful country? And so we need to protect the trade routes, the sea routes. So that's what that is about. Simultaneously, they are pushing oil and meat and eggs and dairy in the food pyramid, the inverted food pyramid. Okay, they put all that in there. So it's like a regressing of that. And then he had a press conference to promote whole milk now being offered to school children. So it's a White House press conference with kids there, and and I'm saying he's confirming our analysis that dairy is the foundation. And this is why every nation promotes dairy. Dairy is the foundation, and tackling that foundation, you're like Samson, pushing those pillars, dairy and eggs, so the entire thing falls apart. So more power to you, Tammy.
Well, to us.
Yeah, more power to us to make that happen. Yeah. I saw the form you created for submission of recipes for Mother's Day for the Milk of Human Kindness.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be an amazing and beautiful cookbook.
Yeah, and Reverend Beth Love will be on next, and she has some incredible books. She's one of the grandmothers who has created an amazing foundation, Eat for the Earth. So there's going to be Beth might be listening, but there's going to be some amazing recipes from Beth in there as well. So this is whoever's on here today. Please put your name in the chat if you'd like me to send you a submission to share. The book is going to be called The Milk of Human Kindness, based on an interview with Freya Denshaw, the co-founder with her husband of the American Vegan Society that began in 1960. And that's what she calls it. And so we're going to move forth with compassion and saying the most compassionate act we can move forward on is stopping this perverse separation of the 22 plus million calves that are separated from their mother, just in the States alone every year. That's not even internationally. It's over 1 million that we know about internationally that are removed from their mother so we can have milk. And Freya, when the interview comes out, it was a beautiful interview with Freya. She's just so beautiful and gentle. And she tells a story of a friend of hers that just wouldn't go vegan. She was vegetarian. And one day she was going for a walk down the country road, and she heard this cow on one side of the road mooing, and her calf was on the other side calling back. And so she went and asked the farmer, how come, the calves are separated? He says, well, then, so you could have milk, lady.
That did it for her.
And that was it.
Good.
Just like that. So.
Yeah. I know. It's such an absurd food system that we have created.
So bringing it through the root of compassion, because humans would be appalled if somebody came and snatched our baby off our breast while we were nursing them.
Correct.
That is just the most perverse thought in the world. So let's clean this up this year.
Let's clean this up this year.
Let's do it through the root of compassion for the grandchildren of all species.
Yeah. And for human beings also, we are all suffering. So many of us are hungry. So many of us are getting chronic diseases. These are all two sides of the same coin. So it's compassion for all of us.
Right. And that's the grandmother's pledge. When they say the grandchildren of all species and their homes, we gather together for the grandchildren of all. We're including humans in there.
Yeah. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Allison?
Yes. What a beautiful discussion today. And I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to get to know the bathtub model so much better. I think everyone knows now that we're on Saturdays doing project reports, because we do have a number of many actually projects that are being worked on to create a vegan world. And 2 of those projects will be reported on now. The first one is Deepak Gaya Gayen's project, which is connecting seeds. And I see he's here and ready to present.
Awesome. Yeah.
So after his project update, and maybe even I asked him if he could do an overview of his project also, we'll have some time for questions. So I'll go ahead and bring Deepak up.
Perfect. Thank you.
There he is. Hey, Deepak. Deepak's joining us from India.
Hey everyone, sorry, the lighting is an issue, so that's why the camera is how it is.
Also, can you either get a little closer to your microphone, or your voice is a little bit soft?
Okay, is
That's
it
better.
better now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry for the camera. It's pretty grainy as it shows to me. So apologies for that. And yeah, so the overview first of all. Let me share my screen. I'll just explain it. I think that'll be better. So it's
Yeah, you should have you should be able to share now.
Okay. Right, so just an overview, considering some of you might not be there when we pitched the projects during VCOP 23. Right, so this is like, I'm just calling it connecting seeds, because like it's basically seeds of Planet B, right? Different projects and volunteers who do want to help build this Planet B vegan world. And as we all know now, that vegan stands for vitally engaged guardians for animals and nature. So that's why like these volunteers are like gonna be guardians instead of like activists. It's more inclusive, so it will have few metrics to just track like how over time between different projects and collaborations, like what's happening. But yeah, basically different projects will list, because there are many platforms already. There's a Slack channel from this group called Hive. I'm sure many know about that, but it's very like scattered overall, and like it's not easy. Like everything is not in one place, so that's why like there's like a project listed, and you can connect now. And so you basically create different profiles, either as a project or as a volunteer who wants to contribute to the project. So here you can learn more or connect now. And then this is kind of, I want to help. That's how it is. And the thing I'm doing is using AI to kind of as an AI matchmaking service between projects and volunteers. So that's kind of layer one. Layer two is Planet B Pulse. We can have a better name for it, but it's like a positivity stream, because as we know, where attention goes, energy flows. So because we all know how the news works, like it, all the negativity is framing. So we think, oh, like we will get down, disheartened that, oh, nothing is happening. Then like we are going down anyway, so why do anything? But I keep hearing news that, as you can see, like Amsterdam passed plan. It just it's not real news. Was just an example. Amsterdam passes, or like former dairy farmer in Vermont opens a mushroom cultivation facility, or sanctuary in Kerala rescued these many. Kerala is a state in India, by the way. 45 cows from slaughter, now thriving in a rewilded pasture, which is like which is what Planet B will be. So that's what it is, and eventually, maybe, who knows, even AI-based 24/7 Planet B radio, which can even, because some people are better reading, some are better listening, so both of those are an option. And then there's this Ask Gaia, which is like AI, which will, okay, I want to do something, I want to go vegan, So it's just like an AI trained on vegan data, whether it's like Dr. Rao's papers for the climate side or the health side, like vegan data, vegan health studies, which is like there are plethora of those now. Like there is no doubt that a whole food plant-based diet is a solution for everything. So that's kind of an overview. This is kind of a user journey, as you can see, like from discovery to a response to connection to action and then impact. So that's kind of an overview. Now, in terms of there's just more details, but yeah, I think that's all kind of what the overview was. I hope everyone got an idea. Now, in terms of update, right? So I'm not like a tech builder, but in the last 1 month or so, I've been learning from this AI-based cohort, which is at the intersection of AI and animal advocacy. It's called Electric Sheep or Future Kind, one of the two. So I've been learning. So till now, it's been mostly theory, but now I've just gotten connected with some collaborators, and now I'm starting to work with them to actually build the AI. Oh, by the way, one thing I'm sure many of you know about effective altruism. So I got to pitch that. Like I just got selected. I was one of the 4 people to pitch. I didn't get selected because there was like a $2,000 award that they will give you to start using those funds to build your project. But I was able to get the idea out there, even because it's not like a vegan platform. So I was able to uh, talk about Planet B, what Planet B is, and of course this project. And I got some learnings there, like what platforms already exist and how I can sort of stand out, like what's my unique value or unique value proposition. And yeah, like that's about it. But I like my date was to launch by 1st Feb. So like just at the end of January, which like 2 weeks are left now for that. So I hope to like present something, show something real, so people can start like creating accounts, volunteers as well as uh, different project founders. So yeah, that's kind of what's been happening in the background. Yeah, and soon I will be able to invite collaborators, because marketing is the real marketing and testing the platform would be the two different two real bottlenecks to kind of get it out there. Yeah, yeah, thank you. That was kind of a short update.
Thank you, Deepak.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's helpful to see the website to understand how it's going to work. And I know there are other people here who have projects. The next project report that we'll have is Susan's project. So as she is looking at your presentation, she's probably thinking, oh, how can I use your platform to get support for my project? Yeah. But this is a time, and if Susan wants to raise her hand and ask that question, she's welcome to do that. But this is a time when anyone who has a question about your project can raise their hand and go ahead and ask their question. So we do have another 15 minutes or so for people's questions. Yeah, there she is, Susan.
Yeah, mine is my project is very focused just on some environmental issues, and it tends to ignore the really important animal issues and animal welfare issues, shall we say, the abuse of animals. And I don't really want to include it, but I would love, because my focus is going to be environmental. But on the other hand, I would love to include the links and highlight the links to go, if you want to see, this kind of information. So I'd love to link into other other websites as well. And in fact, my understanding is that if you do that, then your rating kind of goes up in some of the web page analytics. I don't know if it goes up in Google, but it certainly goes up in your web page analytics. So, that's a positive. I definitely see that as a positive thing, and I would love to see more of your web page. Just curious, could you tell me where it is currently located?
So it's currently in like that was just a prototype. It's not like currently built. So I would definitely share with the community once it's.
Okay, that makes sense. I know exactly where you are. It took me about a year to get up to where I am, just yeah. So good luck with it.
Yeah, thank you.
I see Tammy has her hand up.
Hi, Deepak.
Hey, Tammy.
I love the seed idea of connecting through seeds. And so a couple of questions, like how could the grandmothers support this community? And what do you need to feel like you have a foundation of getting things moving forward? Like what kind of support, what kind of resources? And then the other thing, and I know that this is different, but because you're using the analogy of seeds, it would be neat to have like, I don't know, like a little paper bookmark with your community on it that have seeds in it that can be planted, like heirloom seeds of some kind. But anyways,
Yeah, I remember you asked the same question during our presentation as well, because of the seed connection. Now I can recall. So how you can support, one is once the platform is up, list your kind of project on there and whatever help you need in terms of skills. I know you need some help, which of course, in terms of skills, or maybe just in terms of time, right? Like maybe someone, all they can do is devote 10 hours a week towards like building this calf and cow of mothers. So that's one way to help. And what was the second question?
so what do you feel you need for support to get your platform on the ground?
I think the most important thing is like testing the platform, like, and then of course like spreading it around, because there are many platforms, but from a specific Planet B perspective, it's gonna be the first one. Like it's a collaboration hub, right, where different projects can collaborate with other projects, or projects volunteers who don't know how to help, so they can at least give their time and skills to the project. So the testers and the marketing is like the two major things, as I said.
Kind of like mycelium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Deepak, just a little suggestion. You're so comforting and soft spoken, but sometimes it's really hard to hear you, like your energy. Could you just speak up a little bit more when you're presenting? I just find it a little bit hard to hear you sometimes.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's a tech issue, but I will fix it next time for sure.
Okay, yeah. And Susan, I was just going to say maybe you could join the Million Vegan Grandmothers. And our platform is to bring animal liberation, but in with compassion, because of the love we have for our children and our grandchildren, to bring it to all species. So it's a based on the grandmother compassion love. My grandchildren aren't being raised vegan, and I'm certainly not going to love them any less. So it's like loving all and feeding all, but to bring awareness through, oh, look at that poor baby, look at that, as opposed to us murderous souls. So, yeah. Thank you.
Deepak, Could I ask you a question that probably everyone is wondering, and that is, what is your projected timeline, or what are you thinking in terms of when your site might come online?
So as I said, like the initial first one, I'm trying to launch it by 1st Feb, like just as we are done with this veganery, uh, and then of course like it depends on the projects that get on there and the volunteers, which depends on marketing, which is I will need the support of the community to kind of spread the word, so more and more projects and volunteers can collaborate.
Okay. All right. So you're thinking definitely soon.
Yeah, soon we are in 2026, and this is the threshold year, right? The world is gonna go vegan this year, so we have to kind of hurry up. Yeah.
Okay, I see some hearts. Are there any other questions for Deepak? Or Deepak, do you have any additional comments? Oh, Brittany's raised her hand. All right, let me go ahead and unmute Brittany.
Do you feel that your project connects with my project and that you would possibly build some part of the platform for it?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, I'm just getting into the building phase now.
Yeah, because from where I was working on my project, I noticed that my project is kind of like a social media platform for projects, but not for the very people that would contribute to it. So having that platform that shows who's contributing and how and what and their availability and the matches to the projects, I feel would be great. I was wondering if we're able to connect a little bit more on it so that we could kind of coordinate a little bit better. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all projects connect in some way, right? As Tammy said, mycelium, so that connects to everything. So absolutely, yeah.
Well, when you have either something put together or you want to brainstorm or something, just let me know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, Deepak, what would you like to say to people in conclusion about your project?
In conclusion, I don't know. I would just say that it's very much needed because I see all the time spread across various platforms that people want to contribute, and projects, especially those who are not funded yet, uh, they need that help when they cannot pay for it. So it's the perfect like kind of a matchmaking platform for them to do that. And other thing is the positivity stream I talked about, because we definitely need to accentuate the positive that Planet B is already happening. It's not some future thing. We don't need to build a spaceship to go to another planet. It's right here. We're building it right here. So yeah.
You may have to change your last name to Matchmaker. Okay. Well, it's so nice to see you making progress and to get another look at your future site and how it's going to be working. I do see that Rebecca has also raised her hand, so we do have time to take her question. So I'll bring her up, okay?
Yeah.
Rebecca?
Hello. I've been watching from YouTube, so I have not been in the room, but I have been watching from YouTube, and I wanted to know if it would be beneficial for you to have a Signal group or a WhatsApp group at some point so that we can join in and just kind of see what you need for testing. If that would be helpful, or when it is, let us know.
Yeah, I've already created a WhatsApp group. I will share the link in the Teamwork Tuesdays. I think that'll be great for you, anyone who wants to help to join that group.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Really good suggestion, Rebecca. Mhm. Okay, so should we bring Susan Link up? Susan has a project which I'm so curious to learn about. It's called Green Living Quantified, I believe. Let's bring Susan up.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me? And I'm gonna try to actually share my screen to start with.
We hear you perfectly.
Okay, well, this is part of what I was looking up, but there's something
Yes,
else,
we
but here
see.
we go. Green Living
Yeah.
Quantified. Okay, so let me go ahead and minimize that. And this as I mentioned, I've been working on this for about a year, and one of my main focuses is um I've had friends that said, why are you building your own website? And it's because I've had a heck of a time trying to work with environmental organizations who only see fossil fuels. And so, the idea of diet is just thrown completely out. And, it's not the first time this has been mentioned in today. So what I have done is I've said, well, okay, most people are not willing to look at diet, but I'm interested, let's show them different ways quantified, how much difference you can make by actually doing something like working with home energy or saving electricity, low impact diets. And I'm as a scientist, I'm a PhD. I'm working entirely with data, scientific research where it currently is. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not where, in fact, I have actually published a paper with low impact diet because I was not happy with what I saw. So in any case, one of the things you can see on the home page is that ways to save electricity is 1/2 to 3+ tons. Low impact diet is 2+ tons. Now this is conservative. Personal transportation is 2 to 3+ tons. And then sustainable gardening has other advantages, but is not necessarily for the average person who doesn't have acres and acres. So this is really personal impact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one of those categories, but really spend most of my time with low impact diet. But I am going to go over one or two areas in the other places just to show. Well, actually, let me start off with calculate your footprint, which is where I intended to go second. And this shows, there is a Excel spreadsheet. This shows total vehicle, what the average American, this is with greenhouse gases, is about, the average vehicle is about 4.5 tons of greenhouse gases per vehicle. Total heating in the United States, so this is assuming natural gas, is about 3 tons per home. Total electricity in the United States is just over 4 tons per home. This is all stuff I've been calculating, I'll show you. And total diet, this is per person, is 5 tons per person in a family. So obviously, and that's obviously conservative. So let's go through just some ideas here with Save Home Energy. You can see that there's a number of things that can be done. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I know there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to listen to that vegan idea. But if they'll do something, do something that makes a difference, and do something monitoring the difference you're making and being aware of the difference you could make if you did some other things. So part of what I have here is conserve your energy use, which actually goes to show this is natural gas fuel. Obviously, us in the northern climates, our homes are gonna be, on the higher end. And you can perhaps see your own. This is, like I said, for natural gas. It is the average. This is for an average home of 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. Um, and with the average US being about 1,800 square feet. Our heating for natural homes, and of course, northern is worse. Northern states are worse than southern states. So the way the web page is generally set up is that there is a My Experience, which basically provides a motivation, and it also provides a more personal aspect of what happened when we did this. And then there's a table of links of different things that you can do in order to address that area. And then there's pictures of different things. So seal the home's thermal envelope, seal accessible heating, ventilation, air conditioning ducts, insulate hot water pipes and HVAC ducts, and then seal an unfinished basement. So that is basically the safe home energy area under electricity, similar to the heating energy. There's also electricity. Electricity tends to range in the United States. Average annual greenhouse gases per average household average nearly 4 metric tons, ranging from 133 kilograms in Vermont to 11 tons in West Virginia. This really reflects the impact of renewable gas. Now, when you think about if you're, for example, in West Virginia and each home on average is 11 tons versus you're in Vermont and it's less than a ton of greenhouse gases, at least you're being informed of how much, if you're interested in minimizing your greenhouse gases, how best potentially, to pay attention. So in Vermont, you can pretty much ignore it, whereas in West Virginia, I would definitely pay a lot of attention to it. But southern states are definitely much higher here because of the air conditioning costs, as well as what we've seen with West Virginia and Vermont, whether your state does things with renewable energy or not. In addition, this site also goes over new appliances are much more energy efficient. And so, working with heating, ventilation, air conditioning, each one of these will show if you change from an older device to a newer device, how many tons of greenhouse gases you may be able to save. And short of the HVAC and water heating, those are the largest ones. But other than that, it's more on the order of 0.5 to 0.8 greenhouse gases or less. So we go to optimized transportation. I talk about public transportation, personal transportation, and electric vehicles. The only one I'm going to go through today briefly with you is the public transportation. And what's nice about this site is that, first of all, it does show the impact of traveling. So the round trip kilograms of greenhouse gas, New York to Paris, for example, round trip is just over 1 ton. New York to Los Angeles, round trip is most of the way to 1 ton. In addition, it shows the kilograms of greenhouse gas per mile, what the rate is on a per mile basis for the average passenger car and buses, Amtrak, and air travel. So that you could feasibly calculate your own, but you can also use my spreadsheet, which does it much easier for you. So that is optimize transportation. I'm going to briefly go to sustainable gardening just so that we can hit up the categories before I really go into depth into low impact diet. So under sustainable gardening, this is probably, I've done a lot. I think I've shown you that, and I have over the years done a lot with home energy and electricity, and where I could with transportation. Sustainable gardening, I've done it, but unfortunately, it's not that I have the expertise there that I have in other areas. And so this could be an area where, if there's experts out there, I could use some help with. One thing that I think is a strong area is the perennial food gardening. And I got into this because I was a teacher and really busy in May, and so I couldn't plant. So I said, I'm going to plant perennial foods instead, and they'll just come up. And then I just need to weed them. So there's plant perennial herbs, berry bushes, vegetables, and fruit bushes. And here we have some chokeberry bushes. There's rhubarb, and there's fruit trees. And I have been eating basically frozen peaches this week from my peach trees. And I've also got some apple trees that are not yet producing. So there's some good discussion there. Why concerned is really the motivation, and I don't have a lot of pictures here. I could use some real pictures from people of places that really have been devastated, pictures that I can use. But it mainly goes through, let me make sure that my power is turned on here. There we go. Okay, hopefully that'll go away. I mainly go through the IPCC report with some of their warnings. And now I'm going to go through low impact. The first one just goes over the different potential areas. And let's start with improve your health, our planet with a plant-based diet. And it starts off with a nice image of a wonderful Indian vegan food that I ate, as well as my experience, and then the table again with the different options. And I'm not saying I'm not saying go vegan. I'm saying prefer low impact foods. So people will get the message, but I'm trying not to turn them off with the vegan word right off the bat. So but kind of showing the rate of input output waste. One icon represents 1 kilogram. So this is the amount of input that goes into 1 pound of beef, and this is the amount of waste that is produced for that 1 pound of beef versus going into a chicken or pig, the amount of feed is a lot less. The thing I don't like about this is that chickens and pigs are abused much more than cows are from an ethical perspective, and probably produce a fraction of this waste. Environmentally, certainly the chicken and pig is better if you're going to eat any meat. But from an environment, chicken and pig might be better, and so those people who are not open to vegetarianism and are going to walk away the minute you mention it, at least they're being informed. And then, of course, it says, for any regular food that we're eating, the waste is minimal, and the input is 1-to-1. Eat less meat, particularly high impact. This is based in part on the research that I did. Someone asked somewhere along the line what, why are they walking away from us? And I think part of the reason they're walking away from us is there's a lot of literature out there that basically says that a vegan diet is half the greenhouse gases of a meat-centered diet. And I read all the papers, before, and not at least, when I was a while ago, I was reading a good portion of the papers on this. And I saw all this, 2-to-1. I said, that can't be, that just can't be. It's just too inefficient, thinking of this kind of data. And what I noticed in a lot of those papers is eventually was that they were saying that the amount of meat that was eaten was 100 grams. Well, that meant nothing to me until I figured out how much 100 grams was, and it's slightly less than 1/4 pounder. This is per day. So I was thinking, so according to these studies, people may be eating half a 1/4 pounder for lunch and half a 1/4 pounder for dinner. And that's all the meat they're eating. They're eating nothing for breakfast. And that's what these studies are saying, that are 2-to-1. That is the preferred, this is actually the preferred, diet. This is what people maybe should be eating, and that's what they were publishing on. So at that point, I built my own spreadsheet, and I kind of projected up, because I found a database that said that this is where people are actually eating. I took the UN has an OECD database, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. They have a database, and you can actually see what Americans are eating, which is why you can see that the European Union and the United Kingdom and the FAO, actually I should have this as OECD, EU OECD and UK OECD and US OECD. No, actually it is FAO. So the FAO statistics basically say this is what the impact of meat is. Beef has this many greenhouse gases per kilogram of beef, and per kilogram of chicken, and per kilogram of pork, and then they have a category for sheep as well. So I took the amounts from the OECD and the FAO's numbers, the statistics for how much the impact of each for the meat was, and I took all the studies that were out there, and I projected up from 100 grams to a higher amount. And it turns out the United States, the studies on diet were all across the board. The European Union was closer to level. Now, this is not all described on this webpage. So this is your personal benefit for the research that I've done on this. And I found out that, vegan, the blue assumes you're eating the diet you should be eating, 2,000 calories. And then with the red, it assumes that you're what you're actually eating, which is 2,500 calories. Most studies were based on 2,000 calories. Many studies were based on 2,000 calories. And then the gray on top assumes that there's some carbon. There's 30% of food is wasted. Now, unfortunately, it's not just wasted at home, it's also wasted in the store with dates of, when it can be sold by. So basically what we can see is a vegan is much more efficient than a US FAO American, and Americans are worse than the European Union and UK. But in addition, what I later learned is that FAO was extremely conservative. So after I published this, I realized that even I was way too conservative. But I needed numbers for, this is the impact of greenhouse gases for beef, chicken, sheep, and pork. Pig is what they actually call it. So poor and Nemesic have studies that actually have numbers for that, and I could just put them in my spreadsheet, and I came up with, well, Americans are at about 5 tons. So now there's a difference. Instead of 2 to 1, there's a difference in diet with this data showing, just over 1 ton, nearly 1.5 ton to 5 tons. But everyone can at least see that data. But then I also say, this is really conservative, and the numbers are not necessarily available for the greenhouse gases per meat product. So, please read The Science How Meat is Problematic, which is another thing I'll show you. Some of the other things that people really focus on is, what about the protein? Isn't meat necessary? What about the protein? Well, if you look at the consumption, this goes back to the OECD database, you can see that the American consumption of meat is, I think this is per year, 80 kilograms, over 80 kilograms per person. If you look at India, Nigeria, Indonesia, and Pakistan, they're well under, they're at 10 kilograms per person per year, or just over that. China has really moved up. European Union is high, but not anywhere near as high. Brazil and the US. And this also shows how much of each type of meat. So China is at least eating a lot of pig meat, which has, or pork, which has a lot less impact than the beef, which happens in this case to be this first area that Americans are so good at eating. So then this is the greenhouse gases due to the meat consumption. So this is not total food diets. I don't have that kind of information, but it does show that if you just look at the beef, India and Nigeria have a minimal impact of total greenhouse gases versus the United States. And again, this is FAO statistics versus poor and Nemesic statistics. I do have, how to be vegan. There's kind of a handout on this that talks about different foods that people can eat. And then all of my references, I try to make sure that everything is, scientifically justified or working with UN documents. So that's that first area. Eating organic versus conventional, because I'm trying to, kind of indicate, a lot of people think, oh, I'm eating organic, this is environmental. It's like, so I have to have a section on it. And the low impact diet here really kind of shows that. And here I have eat plant-based. This is 5 tons per year, and it accounts for 70% of the diet. Choose organic foods is 20 to 25% of the diet, relates to greenhouse gas, the climate change impact. So if you go from conventional to organic, yeah, it'll change, 20 to 25% of the diet, showing using the statistics I worked with. Reducing food discounts, that's 30%, but remember, half of that is in the stores, and you can't really affect that. And then eating local foods, which everyone, that's the big, environmental thing, is to eat locally. Okay, well, that's 10% of diet, and that's less than 1/3 of a ton. So it kind of helps people put in perspective what's important and what isn't important. Another thing that really has burnt my gall, shall we say, is when I go to, I'm part of a environmental movie group, and I review movies, and they very, very, very well just ignore the vegans, So I've actually gone to some movies, and I've spoken out a couple of times, after the movie has been shown, saying, no, these statistics are not, it is not, grass-fed is no better than grain-fed. In fact, it can be worse. And, here are the studies. So I definitely want to address this area, because it is what all of those, quote, environmentalists are hanging their hat on, the fact that grass-fed is better than grain-fed, when basically conventional farming basically says, no, it's actually worse. So I have a couple of studies here that look at conventional grain-fed for 124 days. It's about 4 months, but the grass-fed, they're around for 20 months, and they're producing, which is better from an animal rights perspective. They're at least living longer, and enjoying maybe the outdoors a little bit better. But from an environmental perspective, it's really a disaster, because it's going to mean more deforestation. So there's this particular study. The one thing this study doesn't really go over, and this is what you keep hearing with the movies that talk about how good the grass-fed is that, carbon sequestration. So I actually show a graph from a UN report that shows that pasture is right there with crops. It's just ever so slightly better. But if you look at forests, and in some cases grasslands or shrublands, they do perform better. So studies with soil carbon indicate that carbon sequestration is still better with forest, and pasture is barely better than crop. And unfortunately, with the horrible land use that grass-fed uses, it just means more environmental devastation. Areas I want to go into in the future is fishing versus aquaculture, and greenhouses versus open fields. And of course, there's a series of references here as well. So the science, reduce environmental impact. This really kind of gets into, it's kind of been hinted at in the first area. I have a pig at Woodstock Farm Animal Sanctuary in New York. I think it looks like a very happy pig, but it's also very lucky, because it's not in a factory farm. And perhaps I can put that in my experience. But I don't want to turn people off. I'm playing very careful. So anyway, the reasons that I'm going through for the science. Now, the science parts are really going through more issues. Meat requires more land and resources and causes more pollution. Agricultural land sequesters less carbon than wild lands. And all of these are going to be backed, that are backed by scientific literature. Probably trying to describe it in a way that people will understand it. This particular diagram is from the UN. It is basically the same diagram that Dr. Rao keeps referring to. But what I've done is I've chopped out everything except for the food aspects of it. And then from this part, I come up with a series of statistics. It's actually where the statistics, the diagram I showed with the pig and the cow and the amount of waste and the inputs, where all of that came from. So additional sections, global human food, 82% of human diet is grown by 36% cropland and 0% of grazing land. And this is a diagram that kind of shows the inefficiency, emphasizes the inefficiency. Animal waste is not treated by sewage systems, pollutes locally. Cheese requires 5,645 liters per water per kilogram of cheese. UNIPC does not factor in livestock breathing or the full impact of methane to climate change. So the first part talks about this is what the UN is doing, is saying, but they're not factoring in everything. So here's the things that UN doesn't consider. And then I go through, livestock breathing actually doubles the impact. The full impact of methane, is in this aspect as well. UNIPC does not factor into in the cumulative effect of cutting down forests and its impact on carbon sequestration, and increasing population and rising meat consumption threaten remaining wildlands. If meat is so inefficient, what will happen to farmers? In here and also in the organic section, I try to support local farmers, so I talk about different ideas for how to do that, as opposed to the big ag, which is definitely supporting the meat industry. So that is the most of the web page. The one other thing going back to calculate your footprint is there is a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet I'm going to bring up basically has instructions. You can put your utilities in there. It will calculate your greenhouse gases. You can see that electricity is in the first column and supports different types of heating oil, natural gas, if it's measured in therms or million BTU. Vehicle, how much you drive on average, and there's also travel, which is how much airfare and that kind of thing that you're actually doing. And then there's diet. And one of the things that I think that this does that none of the other ones do. The reason I'm doing this as a spreadsheet, first of all, is because we've done energy efficiency things with this house, and yet a good portion of the not spreadsheets, but the websites out there, they're only asking the size of your house, and they assume that, okay, the size of your house, this means you got this many greenhouse gases. That is not true, okay? Because people can work on their house and they can bring it down to reasonable levels that can make your house more comfortable. But the second thing is that, they ask you, okay, you eat meat, you're at this level. Well, we've already talked about how a lot of research out there is, it's 2-to-1 with a vegan versus it's 5-to-1 with a vegan. Well, this way I ask them to say, what are you having at lunch? You're having this at lunch, and maybe you're having that at dinner. Okay, so I have them go through, and then step 2 is say, well, okay, now let's consider portion sizes. This is assuming 100 grams, so that's equivalent to one quarter pounder. The amount that you're eating, is it equal to 1/4 pounder, or is it 2/4 pounders? So if it's if they're putting 2/4 pounders on that plate, the equivalent to something like that, it's going to rise up and to have a better feel for what they're eating. And then at the very end, it actually shows total diet greenhouse gases. Now we're going to be really low because the meat consumption is not there. But total diet with waste, I have statistics for that. Some of the other things that I can provide is annual land use, annual water use, annual eutrophication. This is all based on Pura Nemesic, the data that they produced and was available through their research. So that's what the PNN is, Pura Nemesic versus the UN. So you can see the Pura Nemesic, the numbers are much higher than the UN data. And let's go back to the website. Oh, actually, there is one more thing I want to show on this. When we're done with this, we can go to totals. And the totals here actually show your total results. Now we really, haven't entered everything into it yet. So, there's also a bar chart that shows your total travel, total vehicle, total heating, total electricity, and total diet that are included in this. So that is the website, and where the website is, let me go ahead and stop sharing, I think, unless people have some questions, we can bring it up again.
I did put your link in the chat earlier for the website.
Yeah, Green Living Quantified. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that people can take a look at it. This is, I have made it available now on Google, and I am working with a web expert, and so she is, I'm having monthly meetings with her, where we're going to be going over the statistics and see how I can improve the website to get more people interested in having them spend a longer amount of time and having more visits. Okay, so she's going to help me get there. So anyway, that's I am happy to take questions now. I think later on there may be a question of where we're going and where I need help that I'd love to talk about, but I am interested in taking people's questions. So
Yes, good. People have raised their hands. Toby is first. Shall I bring him up?
Yes.
Okay, here he is. Toby? Oh, we lost Susan for some reason.
Oh,
there we
I
go.
There we go. Hello, Susan. That looks great. A lot of information. I remember when I was at horticulture college, and we did an assessment of our carbon footprint, and I put in that I was vegan, and then that I flew every year to 2 years, and it took several planets. And if everyone was like me, I'd have to have several planets, and then people had a lower carbon footprint than what I did, and I was pretty blown away by that. And no one else was vegan, so it seemed a bit dodgy to me. So this the one that you have seems to be should be a bit better. And it goes into a lot of depth with calories and everything. So yeah, so just I've got a few little points. We are looking at the energy used at home. If you're getting more efficient microwaves or whatever they are, does it take into account the fact of the emissions made to use and build that equipment, and what is, like throwing the old equipment away? Is that taken into account as well with the emissions that it's saving?
I don't take that into. I'm basically looking at just the electrical use. Actually, part of where that data is coming from, particularly with the electrical, is it's easy. I can get it straight off. United States has energy, what's it called? Energy saver or something like that. And the government actually rates products, and I think it's just plain on electrical use. So obviously, I agree with you in that if you produce something, there's going to be some carbon with that as well. And so a true environmentalist would want to keep their car as long as possible, their microwave. But you're right. It's, I look at it sometimes and I think, in fact, right now, I have a water heater that works, but it is 4 tons of greenhouse gases a year, or something like crazy. And I know if I switch to a new one, it's going to be a fraction of that. So, at this point, I'm definitely, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that new water heater. It's not because the old one is broke, although it's probably very dirty inside, and I'm getting headaches anyway. But I'm
A lot of stuff
yeah.
to consider. How long are you going to have it for? And yeah.
Yeah, having it for a long time is, yeah. And in fact, one of the environmental groups is basically saying that when I change, I'm going to change to something very energy efficient, and that you make that statement. What I'm really kind of showing is, I think the whole point is really, people may come to my site and they may say, I'm interested in making my home more energy efficient or something to that effect. And then going through it. And once they kind of go through it, they may say, what else can I do? I mean, one of the things that I did is I did one project a year. And for years, I've probably done it for 2 decades anyway. And I would pick a project, and some of them may not have been all that impactful, like, starting to grow a tree, and fruit trees seem to take forever. They have to bear the fruit, so they have to be a harder wood, and they just take forever to grow. So I knew the impact wasn't going to be, but after you've been through some of the other steps, you're looking around for projects, and at that point, hopefully they'll look at the diet and actually take that seriously, read it through.
So on that carbon footprint analysis that you have there, can you have a negative carbon footprint? If you had like so much land and it was all like woodland, it was sequestering more CO2 than what you're actually.
Unless you have a lot of property, that's hard to do. Unless if you're in unless you have a lot of property, or somehow funding. I don't trust the carbon, what is it? Putting money into the carbon sinks or whatever. I don't trust them as much as certainly one of the things we've done recently that's not on the webpage is we have solar panels. And I actually, my husband lives in Chicago. I had a house in Wisconsin, which is where I used to work. And I buy I buy clean energy in Wisconsin. So my, our complete electricity, zero impact, because he has solar panels and I purchase only clean energy. So that's I've yet to write up the solar panel thing. That's because each one of these areas I have to learn a lot about before I can write about it, and make sure it's accurate. So you can come pretty close, but on the food, I don't think you can get rid of that entirely unless you have enough land.
Another little point I wanted to make was when you're looking at comparing the animals and their footprints for consuming them. You've got like cows and sheep and the ruminant animals, and then you've got like poultry and pigs, and I think that separation maybe people think like it's quite interesting, but maybe it'd be good to also have just like a 39-to-1 ratio where it's like overall animals are causing this, and all those people will be like, oh, I want to eat chicken. Because when I talk to people in England, they're like, oh, I eat chicken, and that's great, And sometimes they'll have pork or something like that, but it's not very often. So they think they're doing their job.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's a great website, a lot of great information on there, and I'm looking forward to seeing in the future when the more you add to it, it's brilliant. I'm going to send it to my auntie, I think, because I've been talking about regenerative agriculture with her, because she's really into that, and it'd be good to also debunk myths that these regenerative agricultural people come up with. If you can talk about different food sectors, you could have like food forestry. What's the carbon emissions for that? If you're living off food forestry, maybe it could be sequestering the CO2 through them means. But yeah, obviously you could go on forever, couldn't you?
I don't know if all of the regenerative stuff is bad.
No.
It's I guess part of what I'm shooting for is to provide information and let people make up their own minds, kind of deal. But at least inform them, at least inform them. So if they notice that beef is horrible and chickens are better, that's a great first step. I mean, unfortunately, here in the United States, I'm glad that, you're talking to people who seem to know, but in the United States, beef is a big thing, I mean, and it's not like I can, they don't want to hear from me. They really don't. So I'm just putting this stuff out there, and I'm hoping that, hey, if you're going to do anything, at least go down to chicken. I'm going to give you the statistics and then you bring it down further, but I do provide, there's 80 billion food animals out there, 80 billion livestock, and only about 8 billion people, and that's where, when I talk about breathing, animal breathing, making an impact, I make sure that people know there's 80 billion livestock animals and 8 billion people. And guess what? Who's eating the most? They're Americans. They're Americans, and Europeans are part of that too. But but take a look at these other countries. Those are like the 8 most populous nations that I'm showing the food patterns for. And it's just, it's just amazing. So anyway, yeah, thank you for your comments. I read everything you said.
I'll let everyone else get on there now. Thank you. Great work. Cheers.
Okay, Susan. So we have 4 other people with their hands raised. I'll bring them up one by one. Next is Ken. And there's Ken.
Hi, Susan. I do a very quick comment. With our Delhi Breathe project, we're going to be having to inform people about the effects of saving electricity and how that can reduce drain on the utility and therefore reduce the pollution and also temperature, both of those things. And I think your site, if we can get to the point where it can be indicated, it's just a window coming through the pollution or coming through the high temperature, a window to look at the broader concept of a footprint. And so I just thought that is a very useful extension of your work that could apply to Delhi Breathe. We're really trying to focus Delhi Breathe completely upon local initiative. And so local initiative to simply save energy is a component of it and seems very remote. It seems very remote. So anything that will help us to quantify that, to get a feel of it, to educate people. And naturally, when you do that, and the other impacts are there also, then it extends that education further. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And I was pleased to see India show up there in a couple of places. So a year, 2 years from now, this could be a place of more direct collaboration between the two projects. That's what I just wanted to share.
Yeah, if you have information that you want me to look at, I have just put my email address in the chat link. Okay, so please do feel free to send me some information. Make sure that I don't, it doesn't get lost. Basically, why don't you, make sure that it says VCOP, on it, and I'll be sure to read it because I get a lot of emails and I don't want to miss it. So, but I'd be very.
We're a long way from that at this point, but I can see this year that this sort of information is going to become valuable to us. So I will do that. I'll make the contact. Okay.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Deepak has his hand raised.
Great presentation, Susan. So I had one question. Have you considered or is creating an app in the works, like when people can just like sort of put in check boxes like, okay, I'm doing this and this, and like then it will calculate the carbon footprint, including the food component, which is a major part, I think.
I have thought about that because just about every other website does not use an Excel spreadsheet. One of the reasons I decided to go with the Excel spreadsheet, other than the fact that it's less programming on my part. I'm web programming. I mean, I'm a programmer, but less web programming, which I'm not a web programmer. That's one aspect, but the other aspect is that people can save it off and then compare year after year. So I've got spreadsheets for Jean's house and my house, for example, so I can compare, here's my baseline, and now I make this change, and here's how it differs next year. And in fact, you can actually see that in, let me go back to share. I'll show you some of the statistics. I think I have, not compare your energy use. Is it seal home envelope? Oh, it is on electricity. Okay, it is on electricity. There's actually, I think it's save home energy right here. Energy costs. Here's my home versus other homes. That's one of the places. I do have a YouTube video on how to do the energy things. Ways to save electricity. There is something here that kind of shows my comparison for electricity because I compared year after year after year. I measured it and saw that when I changed my furnace, there was a huge difference here versus here. So with the new furnace versus the old furnace. So yeah. So it can be useful to know your data year to year.
Yeah, I mean, you will need some like training videos just because not everyone, it could seem very complicated at first glance to someone. Yeah, so that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That's what the directions are there. I understand the directions are there, but I think you're making a good point. There's all sorts of directions, and then the color coding. The pink areas is where you can put numbers in. The blue areas are don't modify. And there's directions on the first page. So, but you know what? Actually, if you're interested in doing it, try using it and tell me, because I am interested in getting feedback on it. And if there's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, I have steps for how to do it. So hopefully.
Sure, I'll email you and then maybe you can share.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Okay, next is Sailesh Rao. Here he comes.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you. Great presentation, and thank you for the incredible amount of work you've done in making that website. Would it be okay with you if we use your website as one of the reference websites for our ChatGPT workbook?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd very much appreciate that. That would be fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. I can add that now and try it out, because basically with the ChatGPT workbook, then it goes and mines your website to figure out the answer to the question that's being asked. Because I feel that people are not going to be looking at websites much longer. They're going to be just asking an oracle in a question.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's important that the AI is looking at the right data.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the way you are so careful about where you get the data from, and you say something is conservative when you know it is. And, yeah. Done like a true scientist. So thank you so much.
Well, I am concerned that if it ever does get big, the meat industry will come after you, not because your facts are wrong, but because, you're hitting their
Yeah.
their money, and you're big and you're not. So,
Right.
that's a concern. But yeah. So yeah, it's important to have the statistics. I think it's important to have the statistics right. And
Right.
one thing that I get from you is I get a lot of, I see, oh, he's got a resource here and he's got a resource there. Let me go after that, So
Good.
I'm definitely, and I'm definitely using your stuff as places where I can go to find out material and your ideas to build things up in a very, you taught at one of the best universities in the United States, and I have taught at maybe, I would say, a much more average university. And so I'm hoping that after those many years, I'm very good at explaining things. You're excellent at explaining things too, but that's what I feel like I do pretty well, at least to the college level students, kind of deal, is explaining to them well how this all fits in. So,
Right.
yeah.
So the other question I had was, you were showing that the events numbers are much more conservative than poor and never checks numbers. So clearly someone is putting their thumb on the scale at the UN, right? So we know that. Now, what can we do as citizen scientists? Can we form a consortium and say, okay, look, we're gonna tell you what we think is really happening. I think we need some kind of a source of information that people can rely on, because the UN has become unreliable. If it is partnering with the International Meat Secretariat and the International Dairy Federation and so on, they're just saying we are not going to be reliable at all on this issue.
Yeah, and in fact, that kind of came home, after I published it. It's with the FAO, I started realizing that the FAO was not a reliable source, and in part that was maybe because of what I heard in part from you. But the other thing is I went to an environmental conference, and I asked, they said, okay, we'll take questions. And I asked the question, what about animal agriculture? And there was a beef person right on, it was one of the 4 people that were being interviewed. And he says, I'm not going to talk about chickens or pigs, but I will talk about beef. And we're doing, this and that, this and the other thing. And the other 2 speakers, what they said is, I'm vegetarian, but they wouldn't go into details. I don't think they felt qualified to go into details. And the beef person was like, yeah, I'm not speaking for chickens. But the other thing I think that makes it, and actually the meat person said, I'm so glad for the FAO data, because the FAO data, they keep saying that, the
Right.
real results, the real science is with FAO,
Right.
because the one they've got their hands in. And,
Right.
and I think one of the things we've seen is when the last COP was it in Saudi Arabia, or it was in the Middle East somewhere, an oil producing company, and they made country, and they made zero progress. And I've been thinking, yeah, but you've had all these meat companies with you for years. No wonder you've made zero progress with the meat area.
Right.
So yeah, the lies are out there. We can see what happens with the lies. We saw it with, the fact that fossil fuels made zero progress when it was in a fossil fuel country. And yet the meat industry is involved,
Right.
that really emphasizes it. So how do we get to people? In my case, it's just providing the information, letting them make the decisions. In your case, it's leading them down the garden path, holding their hand. And I think there's room for both. It's necessary to have both. At this point, I've tried being a speaker at some of the normal environmental organizations, and there's like a little red flag that shows up, so
Right.
that's why I'm doing a poster presentation, not a real presentation, but I'm going to take every inch they give me.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we'll see, and I'm hoping that somewhere along the line, the high schools will ask me to come talk to them. So,
Right. One last point I just wanted to say for your heater. What I noticed in India is that all the hot water heaters have switches on them. You turn them on only when you need them.
yeah.
And then it just plummets. The amount of, the impact of that plummets by an orders of magnitude. Because I'm only turning it on like 5 minutes, and then I use it and I'm done. So for everything else, I'm using the cold water as is.
just curious, how do they do showers and baths though? They must have a pretty small hot water heater.
Right. They have a small hot water heater in each bathroom, and there's
Oh,
a switch you just turn it on. So even if
okay.
you have a big hot water heater, you can just
Yeah.
leave it on just during the day for 4 hours. So just put a switch in there for four
Okay.
hours, and then your bill will come down by a factor of 6. The usage will
Wow.
come down by a factor of 6.
You know, I'll include that. I'll mention that because I think it's worth mentioning, you know,
Right.
that particularly it's important to make this website not just for Americans, you know, that Indians and various other countries realize that they don't want to become Americans, you know, when it comes to our energy. So this factor of 6, you don't have any scientific data
No, I'm
that
just saying if you turn it on for 4 hours out of 24,
Oh, okay,
you already
okay,
have a factor of 6 right there. Yeah.
okay,
Because
gotcha.
I've observed it from day one and said, why are they wasting energy like this? Because you're not using it most of the time, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because we have so much energy and there is a pressure to keep increasing the energy use. The energy company wants you to use more energy, right? So everybody wants to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Okay, I see where you get that from. Okay, that's good. I like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's an investment in a switch. And you can even make it like a switch that's programmable, that it turns on automatically at 8 a.m. and shuts off at 12 a.m., whatever, 12 noon, something like that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, you know, the thing that's holding me back from doing the, you know, additional research, the poor anemisic, my statistics showing poor anemisics evaluation could be, I could be publishing that, and I have not yet published it. In part, because I know poor anemisic is so conservative, it's barely worth putting
Right.
up. So,
Right.
so you know, the real numbers I need are, you know, here are the values for beef, chicken, pork, and now I can start throwing in, you know, these, you know, if you consider this is, you know, this is the amount of greenhouse gases, and this is the
Right.
amount, because I've got the spreadsheet already. So you know, that research could be published, at least somewhere, which would be beneficial, both for this website and for the scientific community.
Yeah.
If we could, you know, but I don't have those numbers, and I'm not as a sufficient engineer, you know,
Well,
yet to get there. So, I mean, I can do the math, but I'm not as good at the science.
let me, may I suggest that we have a private meeting and we can
Yeah,
go through some of this data, because I have some ideas on how we can add fudge factors to compensate for the conservatism. Okay. Because basically we have other numbers. So we have to basically, as an engineer, this is what I do. I say, okay, you're telling me this here, but when I calculate it out, it doesn't match this number over here. I say, wait a
right.
minute, you know? So,
Yeah.
so I have to multiply it by a factor to get this number. So this is how I get them to correspond, you know, and I ask them, how do you correspond it? Or I go and ask them to fix it. I say, it doesn't match this, right? So let's figure out, and we can figure out how to get towards greater and greater truth in the numbers.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. That would
Yeah,
be
I'll
really good.
contact you later, you know, by email.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
That's great. Okay, good.
Thanks a lot, Susan, for amazing work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Coming from you, that really means something.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sailesh. So Susan, let me just step in for just a second. We do have 2 more questions, and I'd like to limit it to those last 2, but are you okay to take 2 more questions?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Five
Then
more questions.
Rebecca. Okay, Rebecca is next, and we'll limit it to these two, Rebecca and Tammy. There you are, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Susan, for your presentation. It's wonderful that you're so ethical about the numbers. I was going to ask if you had studied Gerard Wedderburn Bishop's numbers, but it looks like you and Sailesh are going to talk. And so my question is, I just live near a chicken plant and found out that they're going to spend $58 million to expand it. And so the consumption of chicken in the US at least is growing so much. And I think this maybe goes back to what Toby was saying, that I kind of don't want people to feel comfortable choosing chicken over beef. And yet the numbers are different between chicken and beef unless those numbers change because we increase our consumption of chicken so much. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Don't go away, Rebecca. One thing I'm really interested in doing, I don't have a lot of factory farm pictures. And I think that's maybe something that the waste, pictures of the waste. I mean, some of my pages, there are no pictures. And I think if there were pictures, in fact, I've even thought about going to Mercy for Animals or something like that and trying to, and asking them for a picture that I get permission to use on my website that would show the conditions and kind of appeal to people from the picture side. So that it might be something that you can provide to me. And then I can use some of those pictures to kind of influence them that, do you really,
Right.
you really want to support this? I mean, yes, chicken is better, but look what you're doing, I can't lecture them. I can't make up their mind for them. I want them to keep reading. And I want them to think that they are in the driver's seat and making the decision. But if they're getting the whole picture, then at least they realize what they're doing.
Great. Thank you so much. I love that.
Yeah, waste, any waste, chicken waste, conditions, factory farm conditions, any of that would be great to have on that site.
Right. And the waste of the baby chicks being used for protein for fish doesn't make any sense. And so
yeah,
it's waste.
you mean,
don't know if they can be shown in a picture, but yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It would be very helpful. And of course, it's a concern. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so our last question, Tammy.
Yeah, I just have a couple comments and a few questions. I have a bunch of things. Hi, Susan. Thank you. And I understand, how you're coming at it. And that you have a lot of connections here to maybe upgrade some of the science, possibly, for more accurate sites. A couple things. One of the things when you spoke, you reminded me a little bit of one of the grandmothers, Jane Marinas, and she has a website, Climate Diet. So if you haven't connected with her, we can connect you to. The other thing is when we are talking about solar and stuff, it's really good to look at the impact of that as well. So we don't want to say it's zero, because it's not. The lithium batteries and everything don't last very long. And there's a young woman in our community who's shared with us quite a bit, who started becoming an activist in high school. Her name is Julia Barnes, and she did a documentary called Bright Green Lies. It's done really well. It was her second documentary she did. So I think, and there's all kinds of other resources showing the impact of other, clean energy. So I think that's something to take into consideration as well. When you said that you'd like some more resources, maybe photos and footage, I'm working right now really closely with a woman that wants to, from our grandmother group, that wants to really bring International Calf and Cow into fruition. Her name is Ann Kasperson, and she's in Sweden. She's a journalist. And so she actually has started a Google Doc for me with a whole bunch of footage and photography, but there's also a photographer that's doing some really good work for CowSave in Toronto, and her name is Louise Jorgensen, so I can connect you with her. She's got a lot of really incredible photos, and so does Bobby Suds. He is an activist who did a photography book, and it's quite powerful. But it would be nice to not just have the environmental impact in the photo, but actual, maybe some of that connection of the grandmother's compassion. So a combination of both, maybe, close up of an eye, but also the waste, whatever you choose to put on your website. And yeah, I think from a presentation perspective, and I know that you say part of your presentation is to, not to turn anybody off, I think is what you said. So I just wonder if there's any way to just modify a little bit to say that eating a pig is less impact, and maybe even to use those terms, like instead of pork, pig, instead of beef, cow or cattle. So we're bringing a face to the picture. I think those little tweaks won't really be picked up on a conscious level by the people that have still been bought into those lies around we need animal agriculture, but they do make an impact of how we present. So just really bringing a name to the pigs. They are a pig, and they're very sentient, and they say they're more intelligent than dogs. So I think saying they're better to eat, there might be just a different way you could tweak that presentation. It's just a suggestion. Thank you, but it's just like I almost caught my breath because I just like. Anyways, so thank you, Susan, and thank you for caring enough to bring this forward and wanting support and being part of this community, and saying, is there more science out there? Is there some photos that I can use that would show the impact? And also not turning anybody off. And that's a really fine line to walk. So it's also being sensitive to people that don't think it's less of an impact to eat a pig. That's all. So just on both sides, loving us all. So thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things I don't use the word pork. I think I've used it in this conversation here, but I tend to follow the UN's. I've used their vocabulary. I've continued to use their vocabulary, which actually is like pig meat, chicken, sheep, and I don't think they even use. I'm not sure if they what they use. So it is, and one thing I don't say is, it's better to eat chicken. What I say is, here's the impact. And then I let them decide, what to do next. So I'm not saying eat more chicken. I kind of say eat less impact food and then eat less. And this is, I guess, in part, it is that I'm hoping that Wild Things will next time say, oh no, she's not saying go vegan. She's saying eat less meat and eat less. So I think part of it is to get me in the door of some of the large organizations, which, were nice enough to let me do a presentation, a poster presentation. But, in spite of the fact, I mean, my ratings, I had I had a red flag on mine. They did not, someone looked and said, "Oh, she's doing animals." That's what I'm assuming anyway, and they were just like, "Okay, nope, she's not going to be presenting." So I've got anyone who reads it, I'm not making up your mind. I'm not telling you to eat less chicken. I'm just giving you the numbers, and then you decide, kind of deal. And hopefully after looking at those statistics, you'll say that number should be 0, or at least I'm going to try to get it close to 0. But the one thing I'd also like to do is, okay, here's the environmental impact. There's a link here that shows the animal rights issues. And please, if you want to think about things from the ethical perspective, please look at this site, and that's where I need to come up with, like Mercy for Animals, Glass Windows, or whatever that movie was, which I think was pretty impactful, leading them to another site on another to another site that shows that will hopefully, they will do what they're going to do, but I don't want them to walk away. Any case, I am interested in what you've been talking about. The foreign pictures and everything would be fantastic. Pictures of, within Sweden or whatever would be fantastic to have. And the people you're talking about, I am interested in getting that information. And yeah, I've given you my email address, and
that's great, Susan. Thank you. Yeah, because when we are talking about food impact, and I'll end at this, I'll land it here. We just have to be a little careful because, when they, like a lot of people believe eating fish is less of an impact, but we're completely destroying the oceans, and 2 of our 3 breaths come from the ocean. So it's not just an animal concern. It's for us. We can be really selfish about it. The trees are for us, and the ocean's for us. And, right now, Captain Paul Watson's campaign is they're completely killing all the krill, which will leave no food for the mammals that keep the oceans alive. So, yeah.
I could have a whole nother, section just on the oceans. I'd love to throw that in.
Yes.
In fact, the whole reason I gave up fish was not because I felt sorry for the fish, but because I knew we were slaughtering the oceans.
Perfect.
That we were
we'll put you in contact with the Captain Paul Watson Foundation, and you'll learn. I think you'll find them quite fascinating.
I've seen him speak. I saw him speak about 15, 20 years ago, 30, maybe 20 years ago. So I know the kind of stuff he's doing. I just need the statistics. Some of this stuff I know, but I haven't written up yet. I've done composting, but I have no write-up on it because I have no scientific facts on it. I can't put something up that I just know, but so I need facts. I need facts and references. So, but I am interested in, so I can't just put something out there and say we're killing the oceans. I can't say that.
Yeah, you're going to get lots of actual factuals here. Sailesh is our actual factual fact check man. Fact check. Spiritual being. Yeah. And there are a lot of scientists that have spoken at our different convergences. One of them, a well-known biologist, Helen Athro, and she has proven scientifically that veganic gardening is the way to go, along with all of these regenerative farms. So, anyways, I'll stop there because I know I'm taking up too much time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah. We'll talk again, Susan.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd appreciate that. That would be wonderful.
So, Susan, yes, there is one more question in the chat, which I'd rather have you answer in the chat. You'll have about 5 minutes after we end here. But it says, Susan, could you speak further on what the process was like making all these calculations that made it to your spreadsheet? was a labor of love, I'm sure. What sources were used to arrive at these figures? Not casting doubt on your work, just curious. Okay, so
Okay.
that's the chat. Okay.
Let me go ahead and answer that fairly quickly. There in the spreadsheet at the bottom, there are some references. So a lot of it came from those references. If not, they're basically on my website at the very bottom of the related areas. Okay, so that's kind of the answer. That's the answer to that. Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully I'm not lying. Hopefully they're all there, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for hosting. We appreciate the opportunity.
You're so welcome. And with that, we'll draw this session to a close, and I'll remind you that this podcast will be replayed later on today at 9 p.m. Eastern. So please spread the word. And at the end of this evening's podcast, there will be other project presentations, not the ones that we had this morning. So I say morning, meaning our Eastern time schedule. But so tomorrow, please join us again. We'll be covering chapter 18 tomorrow of There Is a Planet B, which is the need for a spiritual and cultural transformation. So please join us for that, the same time and place. See you all there.
The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafudians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air. Every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafudians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise. This is your hour. Metafoodians unite. Metafoodians ignite. Sharing love in the meta zone. Lighting the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise. Together we